Okay, so this is our communication training video, just talking through the different methods of communication that we do use internally and just emphasising a few points on how important it is that we get it right and that people are choosing the right method of communication depending on the circumstances. So we do have quite a lot of different ways of communicating, and really communication is just exchange of knowledge or passing knowledge on, sharing knowledge, however you want to frame it. So straight away you'll jump to emails and talking to people, but you can sort of look through the list there, and we'll quickly run through them. But all of these, and there will be more internally as well that are actually forms of communication.
Yeah, obviously email is one that we use all the time. Probably in the past has been the most frequently used. But probably being superseded a little bit now by the chat in Teams. So I think that gets a bit more of a quicker response. But an email is probably still good if it's not super important, but you want to get a response on an issue, and it can just be when that person's got time to do it.
Yeah, and also I think emails, you can put a lot more detail in there. So if we need to have a lot more maybe information, attachments, that sort of stuff, then email can still work as well. Talking could be face-to-face. You're sitting down with one. Obviously, we've got Teams or Zoom, or you can talk to people on the phone. Now, it's important to be clear on how you've communicated with people as well. So I've had staff in the past say to me, "Oh yeah, I spoke to this client." But it turns out they didn't speak to the client, they sent them an email. So we need to be clear in communicating how we've communicated to clients sometime as well. So there's a big difference between actually talking to someone and sending an email or sending a chat. So be important. Clear on that as well. Look, job notes. So basically every time we touch a job, we should be putting a job note on. It's a form of communication. People can jump into the job and see what's happened and see where it's at and see what's going on. Milestones, of course, they pop up. That's a communication to admin telling them, hey, call this client and chase this up, or call this client and do that. Obviously, queries from work papers. That is a communication with clients. We send those out and clients have a look at them. But we've got internal queries. We've got review points in there as well. So that's internal communications as well going on. Infusionsoft, a lot of automation with communication. So we do a lot of automatic communication with clients out of Infusionsoft. Now that could be things like, hey, your job's underway, or we've finished your job. Also our newsletters and everything come out of Infusionsoft, but also we do have internal emails that shoot around out of Infusionsoft as well. Zapier, a little bit similar, a lot of automation with the communications there that go around both internally and externally with clients.
We've also got Practice Ignition, and that's obviously the way that we communicate proposals to clients. They can view them, they can accept them or not accept them, but that's, I guess, goes through their email as well. So that's another form of communicating our prices to clients.
Digital signing in its various forms, so that could be DocuSign, it could be coming out of the Xero HQ and the work paper packs that go, or the document packs, sorry, that go out there for signing. The client portal itself, which is a form of communication where we can send stuff to clients, they can send stuff to us. There's actually a signing mechanism in there as well. So yeah, that's just another form of communication. Once again, we're sending clients messages saying, hey, have a look at this, review it, sign it, and we'll lodge it for you.
And a lot of our clients are starting to use the portal to upload their documents, which is what we want them to do as well. Then we've got HubDoc. Some clients that we do some regular bookkeeping for are using HubDoc. That's a way for them to upload documents, once again, communicating to us what they did and what their expenses are for. So another bit of software that they can help explain what they've done during the year.
Jotform, both internally and externally. So a lot of the jot forms that we do use are internal forms where we'll fill them out and that'll trigger a workflow or trigger something else to happen down the track. But there are some that clients actually fill out as well. And of course, our videos, which we have quite a large amount of video procedures on how-tos and explanatory type videos. So they're important in terms of what we've got, but it's also important that people continue to create those videos and get those linked into whether it's tax permanence or procedure manuals or whatever it needs to be, so others can access it and see how to do things. And look, tax permanent, I did mention that there as well, but that's a form of communication. That is a a perpetual document that should always be being updated, being added to. It's a way of communicating to the whole team what's the background of this client, what's happening with this job, what do we need to look out for this year, and we can sort of see what's happened in past years as well. So as I mentioned, there's probably other forms of communication internally, but that's sort of the main ones that we've got there. So you can see there is quite a lot of different methods of communication, and it's really, really important that we basically use the most appropriate form of communication for that task or the task you're working on at that point in time. So obviously you need to make that choice, and it could well be more than one method depending on the circumstance.
Now, we have built this into our business standards, and it's part of our not negotiables now, that you put job notes on, for example. So if you've worked on a job, you've touched a job, you've spoken to a client, we expect there's a job note on that job. If you've worked on it during the day, either pass it on to someone else, or you can't finish at the end of the day, there needs to be a job note on it. Or you've spoken to a client, whether you've left a message or you've spoken to them and got a result, there needs to be a job note on. I always use the example that if for some reason you left work today and couldn't come in for the next few weeks, we need to know where all the jobs in your state are at. We can't be going in and trying to trawl through, trying to find out where you got to on a job.
That's right. And the job note could be saying, hey, I can't work on this job any further until X happens, until the trust is finished or until the client gets back to us or whatever it is. But we just put that there so that everyone can look at that quickly and know where the job's at. Urgent jobs are another one where we have fallen down the path with communication. So two things with the urgent jobs. One is making sure the whole team is aware that it's an urgent job. So admin, accountants, partners, managers, whoever else needs to know that, hey, this is an urgent job and it is coming, and potentially they're also making sure that everyone's aware of what has happened in the past. So, the client's upset because of X. So everyone's on the same page, and we know that we're trying to get this job out very, very quickly and turn maybe a grumpy client into a happy client along those. So really it's about making sure the whole team knows, but also the whole team knows the whole story as well.
I guess fit that into their workflow for the day if they need to.
Multiple methods of communication. So we've talked a little bit about job notes, but I'll use the example of urgent jobs again. A job note may not cut it for an urgent job. So if we know it's an urgent job, putting a job note and changing the state to someone is not going to cut it, right? Yes, absolutely, you've got to do your job note, but you probably also need to call the next person in the line and say, hey, I've just done this. I've changed the state to you. It's with you now. Don't forget, this is an urgent job, keep it moving. So that also is multiple methods of communication. Now that's two methods. Maybe there's three methods as well. Maybe you did try to call me and I'm unavailable. You're going to send me an email and you're going to chat me and you're going to call me back in an hour just to make sure, right? So depending on the circumstances, you need to make those decisions.
Yeah, team communication, we know how important that is. We've spoken about the various different methods that you can communicate with the team, whether it's face-to-face, you're in the office with people, have a quick chat, make sure you take notes if you are doing a face-to-face meeting so that you do record what you talked about, or you're picking up the phone, having a quick conversation. I always get a little bit frustrated sometimes if a job's been allocated to me with a job note on it with a question, should I do this, yes or no? And I think, well, why didn't someone pick up the phone and ask me? They've spent time putting in a note on the job, reallocating it to me, whether they could have kept it in the existing state and just got the answer really quickly from me, especially if I was available. So yeah, just be thinking that way all the time of what's the right form of communication for me to get this moving as quickly as possible.
Absolutely, and don't forget too, you can record meetings. So same as we're recording this training here, you can record review meetings or pre-job meetings, query meetings about clients, and have that there, and that can be linked back into Tax Permanent. Maybe it's something that happens all the time with the client. It's something unique to that client that we need to be aware of. Well, let's get it recorded, get it linked into Tax Permanent. If we're not getting a response, try a different method. So this could be client queries. We've sent it out. We keep chasing, not get a response. Do we need to try a different method? We can't just keep clicking send queries out of work papers. Maybe the manager or the partner needs to get on the phone and find out from the client what's going on. and that goes internally as well. If we're trying to get responses internally and we're not getting them, maybe we've sent a couple of emails or we've sent a couple of chats, then yeah, we might need to book in a meeting and get it on the road. And don't send a chat saying, can I call you, right? Just call. If someone can take the call, I'm sure they'll take the call. If they can't, then they won't take the call. Maybe you need to book in a time, book in a meeting and have it there, and making sure that that message is received as well. So yeah, sending an email saying you need to speak to someone urgently, that's great, but only if they've seen the email. So we need to just make sure that if something is urgent or really, really important, that we ensure that the message is actually received and delivered so that someone can actually act on it.
And just because things are in our procedures, such as sending queries out of work papers, just remember that if it is a quick question that we could make a phone call for that's going to move the job on even more quickly, then take that form of communication. We don't have to always stick to the letter of the law that our procedures say. If it's going to mean the job's going to get done quicker, or maybe the client just isn't responding to using work papers, they don't want to, they don't like it, we've got to pick up the phone, let them know that we're after some things, and maybe send an email in that case. But yeah, we've got to adapt to the best form of communication for that particular situation, and not just always follow the procedures.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that the query doesn't go in the work paper pack. Of course it does. It's just a question of, okay, what's the best method of getting this back from the client? Now, usually, yes, it's going to be send it out of queries, but as you said, Sarah, if we're just chasing one query answer, hey, last year you had $100 worth of donations to the Red Cross, do you have any for this year? Right, that phone call could take 60 seconds, have an answer, queries answered, jobs ready to go out the door, or we click send on queries, it takes the client 3 or 4 days to get back to us, it goes back through the system, right? So just be always thinking, what's the best method of communication here to get the answer that I need or unblock the roadblock to keep things moving along. Okay, so, and that leads us into be the catalyst, and obviously we've got a whole separate training video on being the catalyst, but it's really, really important here for the communication. What's the best method of communication to unblock the roadblock, to keep things moving, to get the answer that I need so that the job keeps moving? And I guess the first point there is don't procrastinate, right? Staring at the screen, the answer's probably not going to jump out at you. If you need help, ask for help. So that could be asking the person next to you. It could be picking up and making a quick call. Maybe it's a longer thing and you need to book in some training. Whatever it is, do what you have to do. Be the catalyst to get the answers that you need.
And you need to be the driver of this yourself. It shouldn't be you get to your workflow meeting, whether it be admin, financial planning, accounting, and then your manager says, where's this at? Where's this at? That shouldn't be the case. You be the driver, you be the catalyst, book the review meetings in, book the training in, whatever it is, quick chat, can you give me help on this? Whatever it is, you drive that when you need help, and don't wait for someone to come to you.
That's right. We don't want to ask the question, oh, where's this job at? Oh, I have to book in a meeting with you. Well, you didn't book in a meeting, right? So book the meeting in. Choose the correct method of communication. A job note and changing the state, and then 3 hours later someone rings, oh, where's this job? I said it was urgent. Oh, it's with you, boss. It's with you, boss, right? If it's an urgent job or it's important or it's something like that, then a job note and changing the state, yes, it needs to be done, but you need more than that in terms of the correct method of communication. So in terms of being the catalyst, it is with you. Problem solve, find the solution. That's your responsibility, and obviously responsible for choosing the correct method of communication for that particular task at that point in time. You've got to make that decision and implement.
And if you still can't find a solution, at least go to the manager or reviewer with some sort of ways that you've been looking for the problem. You know, you've been to our manuals, you've looked at the videos, you've looked at the ATO, you've watched some videos, whatever it is, have a look first and try and solve it before you go to the manager for help. But then don't spend too long on it as well. So you've got to find the balance there of trying to solve it without spending hours and hours staring at your screen and not getting a solution.